Stay tuned as we take a look at Marvel's Scorpion from the Molten Man Build-a-Figure wave. Pow and welcome back to the channel, Dan Who Reviews. As always, my name is Dan W. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at It's Dan Who. Today our Molten Man Build-a-Figure wave reviews continue as we take a look at one of my most anticipated. It is of course Scorpion. Now he was on my want list for Marvel Legends in general for a while, as it is another iconic villain to add to that ever-growing Spider-Man Rogues gallery, and he's definitely in need of an update in figure form. He's heavily featured in the comics, in the cartoon animated series, which I loved as a kid, and he's even been teased in the MCU. And now we have an updated figure, and apparently this tail is completely articulated as well. It's on a bendy wire, which is what we wanted. So very happy with that. He comes with no other accessories apart from the Molten Man leg. He was rumoured to have two heads when they first announced him, but nope, that is not the case. But again, as long as that tail is bendy wire, all is forgiven. On the side and on the back, we get that new updated graphic design artwork, which I'm really liking. And then as always, you get a list of all the figures in this wave you need to complete the Molten Man Build-a-Figure. Today we're reviewing Scorpion. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy open and see what we think. And here he is out of the box, and Scorpion is one of those Spider-Man Rogues Gallery villains that I've wanted for my collection for a while. Very happy to now have him in my possession. He is very reminiscent of the animated show, and of course a lot of history in the comics as well. And I'm very happy to now add him to my ever-growing villain shelf for Spider-Man. And I do really like the figure as well. As I said, it was one of my most anticipated from the wave. It's a little bit different to his animated look, but of course it isn't the animated figure. It's just a representation of Scorpion from the comics. It's all metallic-y green, which I really like. It sort of shimmers in the light. The tail is not as flexible as I thought it was going to be out of the box, but it does the job for Scorpion, and I'm sure some creative posing, I will get that looking good on the shelf. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't come with any interchangeable parts, no interchangeable heads, no interchangeable hands. So what you see is what you get. So that's a little bit disappointing. He does, of course, come with a Build-a-Figure foot for the Molten Man Build-a-Figure. So as always, subscribe to the channel, check out the playlist, as I will be reviewing Molten Man very soon once I've reviewed the rest of the figures in this wave. So hit that subscribe button and come back to see that. Now, as I said, it would have been good to get this guy with some different heads. It was rumoured to have two heads originally. That's what I thought they announced it as, but nope, that didn't happen. He's got one sort of open palm hand and one fisted hand. And yeah, the costume design is very simple, but it is what Matt Gargan wears originally when he is sort of tricked into becoming the Scorpion. Sort of. He volunteers, but he doesn't realise the sort of consequences of the experiment he undertakes. And I'll get into a Who Is He segment in a minute. But instead, I'm going to zoom in, show you the details, see how much flex I can get out of that tail. And yeah. Taking a look at the head sculpt, I quite like it. I like that sort of gritted teeth, evil grin pose. If I'm only going to have one face for this character, then I'd rather it be an evil looking one. He's obviously got the whole balaclava style on with just his eyes showing. A little bit different to the animated design and some of the designs in the comics, but I don't mind this one at all. The rest of the figure is obviously that metallic-y green with those sculpted lines going across, and you can actually see some marbleization in the figure. And some people moan about that and see that as a negative, but I really don't, especially if it's meant to be a metallic metal design. Then the marbleization doesn't bother me at all. I think it actually adds to the effect it's meant to be. The boots ain't sculpted, but obviously they're in that darker green. So are his trunk, and so are his gloves. We've got one open hand and one fisted hand. And yeah, the articulation is good considering the big back piece over here. So it looks like a separate piece, but it seems to be properly attached. I'm sure if I pulled that hard enough, it would come off, but I don't want to try that. But obviously this big backpack there, as you can see, is a separate piece attached to his back, and this is the bendable wire. So I thought this would be more flexible than it actually is, but it does do the job. You just got to give it a little bit of force, but it's not as bendable as you probably imagine. It takes a little bit of finesse, like in this area here. It doesn't seem to bend that much. It's more towards the tip it gets a bit flexible. But I do like the sort of Scorpion tip at the end, so you can get him in some fighting poses with Spider-Man, and he can be stinging Spider-Man. He is a scorpion after all, the natural predator of Spider-Man. And yeah, this guy, I've been using his tail to get him to stand. Like, you can just push the tail so it meets the sort of length of the feet, and then bend it up, and then that's how you can get him to stand, and it sort of balances okay. But if you're gonna pull the tail up straight away like that and have him pose forward, it takes a little bit of finesse. I've been trying to get him to stand in some funky poses, and it's a balancing game, people. I'm sure if you're used to posing your action figures, you know all about that balancing game. So yeah, just be aware. But definitely going to be able to get this guy in some fun poses on your shelf. I like the dynamic look, adds character to your display. So yeah, not got much to complain about. Liking it. Here's an example of that balancing game. He's very back heavy because of the tail, obviously. So I've got it bending forward, and the tail isn't actually touching the floor. So it is possible to get him in a more dynamic pose and for him to stand up on his own. As I said, it just takes a little bit more finesse. So this is the part of the video where I explain all about this guy. But I'm sure if you're here, you know who the Scorpion is. But for those who don't, this is the segment I like to call Scorpion. Who is he? This is the part of the video where we ask the question, who is he? And I try and give you a little bit of information about the character this figure is inspired by. So, Scorpion, who is he? Real name Matt Gargan was a private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson to find out how Peter Parker got such great photos of Spider-Man. Obviously, he failed and was later convinced to take part in an experiment by Dr. Sidwell that would give him abilities of a scorpion, as it was the natural predator of a spider. Scorpion's first full appearance was Amazing Spider-Man number 20 in January of 1965. Dr. Sidwell also built Gargan a suit with a mechanical tail, but the side effects of the experiment would affect Gargan's mind and slowly drive him insane. Blaming both Spider-Man and Jameson for his ruined life, Scorpion is forever trying to kill them both. There you go, so I hope that helped. Again, I do not claim to be an expert, but it is nice to have a little bit of information about the characters these figures are inspired by. Now, back in the day in the comics, he used to use his tail as a spring. So obviously I've curled it up and he's actually balancing there. That tail is not touching the floor. And obviously that's an example of how much flexibility you can get with that tail as well. So that looks pretty good because he used to use the wall, use his tail as a spring to bounce off. And I wanted to know if I could get him to maybe stand, like hover on his tail, but that has been proven difficult. But I did try. But again, I look forward to seeing the ACBA's community's creative posing, because their figure game is much better than mine. But yes, let me get into some comparisons, as this guy has had many an encounter with many Spider-Man villains. Here we have the Scorpion compared to J. Jonah Jameson, the person that tricked Matt Gargan into becoming the Scorpion in the first place. And then here we have Tombstone, just to give you a comparison of sort of body sizes, as he is on a decent book, but it does all seem to be unique pieces. And I didn't really mention articulation with Scorpion, but considering the big attachment on his back, you can get him in a good range of motion, I believe, and the head does articulate all the way up like that, so you can get him in some crazy sort of Scorpion-esque poses. And I also wanted to know if you could wrap the tail around a figure, and I think it's obvious to say yes, you can, but can he hold the figure? By the way, this J. Jonah Jameson is on the chameleon body. So there we go. He's got the figure wrapped. If I bend that, it comes around a little bit more. There you go. So now he's wrapped J. Jonah up in his tail, and he can interrogate him, threaten his life, and then Spider-Man will obviously come to the rescue like he always does. And here we have Scorpion compared to some more iconic Spider-Man villains that were influenced by animals, with Rhino and Lizard, just to give you a concept of scale, but I think these look really good together. And then finally, here we have Scorpion compared to Spider-Woman, who I've already reviewed in this wave. Go and check out the videos tab, the playlist, and check out my full review of her. And then, of course, here we have the Amazing Spider-Man from that MJ 2-pack with Scorpion. As you can see, Spider-Man is a little bit shorter than Scorpion, as he should be, in my opinion. So yeah, happy with the scales. So, as always, people, I like this figure. What can I say? It's a figure that I've wanted in my collection for a while, and I try and stay positive, and I'm sure people will probably find something to moan about, like the tail or whatever, but I quite like the figure. Not really got much bad things to say about it. I'm not as nitpicky as most of you, as you've probably noticed, but this guy will definitely find a place on my villains display. Very happy with it. You let me know what you think in the comments below as always, and always check out the eye in the corner for more videos, the videos tab, the playlist, all of that goodness, but most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much, and as always, my name is Dan W, and I shall see you on the next one.